It's a lunch hour in Vegas, and we're on the dot with Dot and Mia here on PHLV Radio.
Yoo-hoo! Welcome to On the Dot with Dorothy Tome here. You can call me Dot.
And I am Mia. Welcome to On the Dots March episode. And we have a special episode for March, and it's called Sex and Sin City.
We're so excited about sex. Not so much
Are
a
you
sin, not so much a sin or city, but more on sex. Okay. Is it a
Yes.
taboo topic?
Yes, and our topic for today is pillow talk because sex talk is taboo. Or is it?
Is it?
Is it?
That's a good question. Yes. This show is brought to you in cooperation with PHLV Radio and the University of the Philippines Alumni Association of Nevada.
Yes.
But the association has nothing to do with what I am talking about.
Especially for the
Just a
month of March.
Just a disclaimer. All right.
And what is
Yes.
coaching, Dot?
Oh, coaching is just partnering with you as you find your highest truth, your best, and it's not counseling or therapy or any of those or guidance and all that. It's simply helping you find within you your truth, your greatest version of yourself. Yay! Sounds big, no?
Yes.
Yes. Yay! Okay, what have we got, Mia?
So I was saying for the month of March, we were thinking our topic would be about something very, very daring, which is something not really talked about, which is the three-letter word.
Three-letter word. It's something we don't talk about, but we all do.
Yes.
I mean, at least the adult version of the human being.
Which is sex
do.
and sexuality. Well, mainly
Sexuality,
sexuality, yes.
Yes.
So our letter sender is wanted us to talk about it. So she wanted to remain anonymous as well. So should I read the letter, Dot?
Yeah, go ahead. Or if you want to bring in our guest, letter first. Yeah, I
Okay.
think he will hear it.
All right, so the letter goes, Dear Dot and Mia, I am a Filipina, single, professional, and on a spiritual journey. I think there's something wrong with my sexuality. I am a virgin, but I feel an intense sexual desire every time I have an unhealthy thought or emotion like worthlessness, envy, betrayal, or jealousy. Like if there's some drama in my libido. Oh, like if there's some drama in my
In
My
my
di-
life. Yeah, I think.
in my life probably.
Okay,
Huh?
yeah.
In my life, my libido shoots up.
Okay.
I don't know why I feel this way. Maybe too much TV while growing up. Maybe due to some unconscious conditioning from my parents. Maybe from religion. I hope you can talk about sex and spirituality in your show. Thanks, Anonymous.
Oh wow. It's like sacred sexuality.
Yeah.
Yeah, sex and spirituality. How do you merge both? How do you reconcile both?
Yeah, because I think growing up as a Catholic, growing up in a Catholic environment, we were taught that,
It's bad.
yeah,
It's dirty.
yeah.
It's secret.
Growing up with nuns, especially
Yeah. Oh yes. Okay.
in a Catholic environment, yeah.
We could have a really good conversation with our guest.
Yes.
Our guest star.
So our member highlight is, a UP member highlight, lived in the UP Diliman dorms, Kalayaan. This is in UP campus. In 1984, then in Molave from 1985 onwards, just in time to rally for people power and oust the Marcoses. Self-consciousness about his emerging sexuality, he came out to friends and family soon after. He is grateful to the UP alumni and his extended arts and media network who were crucial connections to a successful double career in advertising and theater. An advocate for open conversation about sex, he credits his parents with a frank yet mindful introduction to the diversity of human sexuality. He wore a mustache, his church choir barong, black office slacks, and waved the Philippine flag on the first ever Stonewall commemoration Pride March in Asia. When was this?
I don't know. We'll ask him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like many of us, he maintains connections online with friends from communities like the Library Foundation, Agape, Fast Track, Iloilo Sangha,
Sangha, yeah.
Sangha,
Yes.
and Zen Center Philippines. He joins us today from Bellevue, just east of Seattle, where he is currently on the dot, completing his master's in cultural studies at the University of Washington, Mr. Sam Prudente.
Hello, Sam.
Welcome to On the Dot.
Viva.
Hi, Mia, and hi, Dot.
Well,
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank
Glad
you for
to
joining us.
Yeah, glad to have you. Where are you? Your screen. We're seeing your ceiling. Oh, there you are. Hey, Sam. We want to know when the Pride parade was.
In Asia.
Okay, it was actually in 1993. So
Oh.
it was organized by people like Danton Remoto, J. Neil Garcia, um, Ateneo and UP people, as well as the Metropolitan Community Church, which had a very big influence on the LGBT uh, faith, faithful, um, who were ostracized by other Christian and Catholic faith leaders at that time. So we marched from EDSA and Quezon City, Quezon Avenue, down towards the Quezon Memorial Circle. We marched around the Quezon Memorial Circle, and we held a small uh, community gathering inside the Quezon Memorial Circle. That was in 1993.
93, wow.
That's almost oh
I was
almost
still
20
there
years ago.
then.
Yeah, yeah,
93.
almost, yes. Wow, Sam. So you said that this was organized also by the church. The name of the church.
Yes.
Yes.
Ateneo,
Metropolitan
the
Community
Jesuits,
Church.
yeah.
How was that for you? How was the experience for you? Were you just coming out?
Oh no. I was selectively out with people in the university as well as in the community. I was already starting to work. Um, and uh, I was actually based in Makati.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, but having a career in advertising and theater does open you up to communities that are more accepting and
Accepting.
also more inclusive
Okay.
than the usual corporate setting.
All right. Okay. So, coming to America, uh, let's see. Let's talk about your experience as when you shifted from the Philippines to America. How have your views on and I wouldn't ask you about your experiences, just your views on sexuality evolved. Like, was there a disconnect? Was there smooth transition in your views from traditional Philippines to what we perceive as more open America?
Well, I'm going to have to situate myself a little bit more clearly.
Yes, please.
Um, my background and my growing up years were not quote unquote traditional Philippines.
Okay.
So at the age before I was one, before I started speaking, I was brought to Guam, and then I did grow up in Papua New Guinea
Okay.
uh, before coming back to the Philippines to complete high school and get into UP. So by the time I got into UP, I was already um, filled with American and colonial ideas.
Oh, I stand corrected.
So
I stand
it was more a
corrected.
process of of uh, getting to restrict myself and my own ideas uh, and try to navigate conservative Philippine values.
Mm.
That was more of a challenge for me than it was for me to migrate, you know, in my mid 40s to come to the US. By the time I was here, my mid 40s, I guess most of the wins between you know 2014 to 2021 um, have been very positive for the LGBTQ community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So it was like a from American perspective
Coming to the
to the
Philippines and
Philippines
then
and then
going
back.
back.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's like a sandwich. Yeah, yeah. All right. So what else, Sam? How else have you experienced your transitions? Like not just one
Um,
transition. Yeah.
I'll tell the two stories separately. I think I have two stories
Okay, go ahead.
for the
Yes.
listeners today.
Yes.
One is the story of uh, a coming of age and a coming out story.
Ah, beautiful.
Um,
Sit back and
and
relax,
then
everybody. I'm going to sit
and the
I am
back,
second story
already.
have a
and the
coffee,
second
please.
story will be coming to America story. Yeah,
Okay.
does that sound good?
Yes. That sounds like
Yes.
Eddie
Eddie
Murphy.
Murphy.
Yeah, go ahead.
That
Go
will
ahead.
be the part two story,
All
right?
right, all right. Go ahead, take
Showing
it away,
now,
Sam.
actually,
Yeah.
for Eddie Murphy. Another plug for comedy right there. But the first story was a little bit more life and death. I mean, imagine yourself, and if you have kids or grandchildren who are, in middle school or high school right now,
Mhm.
imagine if you told them, okay, um, well, let's have let's have the family adults talk to you openly about sex,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to the point where you have to remind them, there's a virus called HIV,
Mm.
and if you just have sex with anybody and you pick it up, you're probably going to die.
Oh yeah, this was in the
Yeah.
1990s, right?
This is exactly what I faced when I was growing up in the early 80s.
Mm.
HIV and AIDS were not yet identified.
Right.
There was a scourge going on all over New York and San Francisco. And wondering whether I was gay or not,
Mhm.
you know, um, you read about these things in the newspapers and you realize it could be your life and your death. And that's that's not a very healthy window to sex.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I
Mm-hmm.
appreciated my parents' openness to talk about sex because making sex talk taboo
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
would have limited the access to information and not have given me the chance to weigh things for myself and to appreciate the risks involved in sharing uh, sexual pleasure with another person.
Mm-hmm.
You're told and guided on how to play well with others when you're a kid. I hope at
Right.
least most of us uh, were were taught that, and we teach that to our children and our grandchildren. But then we realize as we get older, playing well with others also means playing safely.
Playing
Um,
safely with
yeah.
others. Yes,
So that
beautiful.
was the context of my growing up and
Mm-hmm.
coming coming back to the Philippines,
Okay,
which is why I committed to a lifelong advocacy for openness about sex talk,
beautiful.
um, openness about LGBTQ discussions.
Mm-hmm.
And I've carried that with me um, all my life. So coming to America when I was 45
Mm-hmm.
was kind of joining the advocacy movement at that time. And although people were pushing for um, gay marriage, for example,
Mm-hmm.
as we can see, the, the conservatism in America pushes back really hard
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
against what they call a liberal agenda. If it's liberal to say that, you know, everyone should play well together, no matter who they want to play with, then uh, then that's liberal. Everyone should be able to access the playground
Access the
and
playground.
access the
That's a good
playground.
way to
Yeah.
say
Um,
it.
so access the playground. You play well with each other. There are some rules depending on you know what your culture and social status and preferences are. But to limit access to that playground and say that, hey, you can't play here
Mm.
because you just play with boys, or you can't play here because you look different, or you can't play here because you only you're a girl and you only want to play with the girls.
Okay. Yeah.
That's not going to be a very healthy discussion, even from a childhood, even from a child's perspective.
Yeah, that's
So that's
true.
how I try to situate it,
Uh-huh.
and how I try to enter conversations.
Yes.
And those are the two stories. Well, they're not really stories, right? Those are the two contexts
Context.
that I bring with me,
Yes.
in coming to the conversation.
Thank you.
I do have to
Mhm.
apologize. I promised a story and I wasn't very
Oh, that's
able
okay.
to really deliver a story with a concrete,
With a plot. Yeah,
characters and plot.
it's okay.
I started rambling more about conceptual things. So
That's all right,
forgive
Sam.
me.
I forgive
Uh,
you.
Pasensya na po.
I
I'll
forgive
try to do
you.
better. Um, if you have
Yeah.
follow-up questions.
Yes. So would you like to move on to how you visited Las Vegas? I'm wearing the shirt. Love Las Vegas because I just want to acknowledge you, Sam, when you came to visit the state or the
Mm.
city. What was that, 2 or 3 years ago? I can't really remember exactly. You visited two important events and sites, so maybe you want to go into that too, or not. Where do you want to go?
Well, yeah, I plan to visit Las Vegas, just to do the touristy thing. And aside from that, of course, meet up with friends like Dot and alumni from Iloilo, University of San Agustin High School,
Mm-hmm.
who are there. Also, we have friends from the LGBTQ community in Manila. Hello, Reno, somewhere down south,
Yes.
south of Las Vegas. And um, we also have friends from Guam who have recently moved there. Hi, Stephen.
Mm.
Um, and friends from friends from UP.
Yes.
So I wasn't I wasn't able to meet a lot of people. Um, but when I did come here, I was hosted by Dot, and we visited several major attractions. We went up to the mountains, we went out to the desert, to the Temple of Goddess Spirituality, and we visited one of the shows. Well, we watched two shows. One was Magic Mike, and the other one was the Cirque du Soleil's
Love.
Love by the
Yes.
Oh,
Beatles.
the
So
Beatles,
Love.
yeah.
it
Yes.
was a lovely experience with Dot.
Lovely.
Which
Just a commercial break. Mia, have you watched Magic Mike?
I've watched both.
Both. Okay. Have you been to the Temple of Goddess
No, I haven't
Spirituality?
been. Where is that?
It's right around Mercury, like 45 minutes away from my house.
Oh
Yes.
no!
Yes.
What is it?
It's a
What is
beautiful
in there?
place. Yeah. So maybe Sam will tell you a little bit about that
Yeah,
and how it impacted him.
goddess. It
Goddess, yes. Sam,
sounds magical.
are you still there, Sam? Yep.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay.
What I love about Las Vegas is that you can be in the city In a few minutes, you can be in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
A few more minutes, you're definitely in the desert.
Yes.
And then a few more minutes out, you're up in the mountains with snow.
With
Yes.
snow. Yes.
Charleston.
So these
Yeah.
things uh, are truly magical as far as I'm concerned. One of the magic spots that uh, Dot brought me to was called the Temple of Goddess Spirituality. You search for it on Google Maps.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's a little bit northeast of the city and
Mm.
Northwest, I think.
very
Yeah.
nondescript. It's a
Uh-huh.
very simple uh, cluster of
Mm-hmm.
small buildings, I think,
Buildings.
just for the
Just one
people who live
building.
there and
Yeah.
to
Couple of buildings.
maintain
Yes.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an open adobe-like structure, um, three or four arches, and a circular open dome, which allows the light in.
Yeah.
And in little alcoves all throughout, there are images and figures of
The
uh,
female goddess.
female
Which ones?
deities from all over the
Female
world.
deities. Yeah.
Isis,
Oh.
Mary,
Mother
Kuan
Earth.
Yin,
Yes.
um, all the major goddesses and arcana from all all around the major world religions
Mm-hmm.
are reflected. Even
Mm-hmm.
female Buddhas,
Yes.
um, and so it was very calming uh, to be out in the middle of the desert, hot day, but cool wind,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
nobody else around, and just the peace that comes with that. Uh, and the images, I guess, that also assure you we all come from a mother.
Mm-hmm. We all
We
come
all
from
come from a
mother.
mother, definitely. Um,
And
we
we
all
are.
have we all have ideas of what the mothering care of a goddess could be,
Could be, yes.
and whether or not we believe in that religion, we can align with that spirit. And since it wasn't about a temple of the goddess period, but goddess spirituality, I opened up my heart to to accept that
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
mothering power.
The mothering power. One of
Yes.
the things that struck me about that visit, Sam, and the other visits was this figure of the naked goddess, the bare naked goddess. And so I said, this is so beautiful because there's the full acceptance of the body as part of spirit. You know, not just the body with the spirit, but the body is in the spirit. And this at the same time, spirit is in the body. So it ties up with what we're talking about here on the merging of how do we reconcile sex and spirituality. Yes, Mia?
This isn't Venus?
Oh, Venus is one of the goddesses there too. Yeah, so it's multiple. It's all like Sam said, the international deities. You know, from different cultures and Asia and
Right.
North America, and that
No, because as far as I can remember, Venus is kind of
the goddess
naked.
of love. Oh yes, she's naked.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it wasn't her.
No, it wasn't her. It's in fact, it's a plus size goddess.
Oh, okay.
So it's not the voluptuous
Right.
Coca-Cola figure kind of goddess, but it's rich and abundant and large and all encompassing kind of goddess. So like there's no separation from the body and sex, your gender or whatever you call your body, whatever you associate your body with, and spirituality. So there's no separation between the two, among the two. Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting.
I should visit that.
Yes. So how does that, Sam? In your case, how does that sit with you? the merging of the body and spirit?
Um, hmm. Well, right now I've had a long practice of uh, meditation and um, non-dual,
Yeah, non-duality.
non-judgmental
Yes.
um, practices.
Mm-hmm.
So it sits very well.
Very well done.
You
Very
know,
good.
spirit and
Yes.
body, head and body, there's no separation. There's always a neck.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a connect,
A
right?
connect
Your head is connected to your
to your,
body.
yes.
So
Yes, there's a
the neck is
connection.
very important. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that is why every day is a neck day. You have to be able to connect.
Connecting. Mia is,
Connect the
look at,
dots.
look at
Yes,
Mia.
you live in your body. Your body is in the world,
Yeah.
immersed in the world, no matter how restricted your movements are, whether you stay at home or in your room or you go out everywhere, you are connected to this world simply by being with it.
Yes.
And that is part of our spirituality. Um, we have to be able to also connect the fact that our spiritual striving, all of our effort maybe, is never separate from all the other strivings of
Mm.
all the other people, of all the other goddesses around us.
Because
So,
we are
so if your
all
mother,
it.
your sisters,
Yes.
your aunts, and your lolas are striving for different things,
Mm-hmm.
we join
Excuse
them
me.
in that prayer because we join them in that striving. That striving is a prayer, is an offering to towards what we consider good or honorable. And that kind of spirituality that is connected um, does not make you selfish. It makes you selfless.
Wow.
It takes you away from yourself. It
Yeah.
is not you praying for your next job.
Mm-hmm.
It is you praying for a purpose that will enhance your experience as well as your mother, your sisters, your titas, and your lola's experience all around you.
Your camera is moving. We're connected.
So
We're connected
you
with your wall and your ceiling. And
ah
cute. Yeah.
so
Just want to bring
that's
that up.
I'm trying not to be very conscious about the camera at all. I'm just holding
Uh-huh.
a
Uh-huh.
my mobile phone.
Yeah.
Um, but the connection between what I'm trying to say right now is to help make the listeners understand um, and maybe even try to open up, you know, a way of looking at how connected we are
Yes.
um, to the world around us.
Mm-hmm.
I th-
So
Sorry.
that's what being alone in the desert at the temple helped me to also do. It helped me to connect in many different ways with
Yeah.
many different cultures, many different ways of thinking.
Nice.
But
Nice. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you realize that you are connected in many different ways to many
Mm-hmm.
different people,
Yeah.
not just your immediate family.
True, true. Mia, yes.
Yeah, I think that's what the letter sender is trying to say, or what the letter sender is asking us also, if there's any connection between what uh, she or he is feeling
Mm-hmm.
towards his thoughts.
I think she's a girl. She said, did she say Filipina?
Oh,
Ah,
yes,
yeah, I
there you
think
go,
she's a
yeah.
girl. I think she's a
Yeah,
girl.
so
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
think she's trying to get the connection between what she's feeling
Uh-huh.
and the connection between her
Yes.
thoughts and sexuality,
Yes.
right?
Um, Miss Anonymous, there might be a deeper story there with you on why you feel sexually aroused when you are encountering these feelings of envy,
Yeah.
jealousy, anger, or hatred. There might be some, deep-seated things going on there. And since we're not in therapy, thank you for bringing that up because we have, like Sam said,
Yeah.
it's a world of so many, it's playground of so many different players out there, and we don't know, no? And
Maybe it's a release.
maybe, who knows? And I'm not a sex therapist. I'm just a listener because we want to remove the taboo
Right, right.
from we want to demystify sex. And what was the word that
Pillow talk.
pillow talk? And
It's just
one of the words that Sam brought up in our earlier talks and even in the email exchange is decolonizing sex. Is there something you want to talk about that, Sam? Decolonizing sex. And I have a feeling, I have an intuition that this is connected to the missionary. This is a play of words, missionary position, how we were colonized by the missionaries. I don't know
the
if that's,
Spanish.
yes.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going, Sam?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna make the connection with the fact that, you know, the quincentennial, 500 years um, commemoration of Magellan's landing
Right.
The
in
Philippines?
the Philippine Islands will be held this year,
500
which
years.
started, of course, several hundred other years of colonization by the Spanish
Spanish.
and American as well as Japanese peoples. Um, before other contact with other colonizer cultures happened, we had our own set of values about sex.
True.
And not a lot of us actually question how we align to those pre-colonial values. We have simply received the values that were taught to us by the institutions of the church, education, and social political economy that happened to be, you know, um, around us in our childhood and our growing up years, whether that was in the Philippines or whether that was here in the US. We usually just accept things as told to us by our adult
The authority figures.
authority figures. So in one way, decolonizing is freeing yourself, freeing your mind from the expectations of your mother and your father, your titos and your titas, your lolas and your lolas, um, because they were also taught to accept. When you critically engage in uh, in questioning your own sexuality, that is step one. And I would really like to acknowledge um, how how brave it is for this letter writer to share their own
Yes.
challenge.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, um,
Yes.
deep-seated emotions that come into play uh, and seem to control or seem to have power over her sex drive and her sexual experience. Um, wow, that's really powerful to
Yeah.
share.
It is.
Um,
Very
but
brave.
also, it seems like she's troubled by it. Um, I I don't want to go into any sort of um, diagnosis or suggestions, but I just wanted to point out that in cultural studies, um, which is what I'm studying for my master's right now, we look at structures of power and how power is negotiated.
That is so apparent even in sex.
Yes, very much so. So
Mm-hmm.
in this case, um, we have a person who has acknowledged her experience of sex as stemming from powerful emotions. These
Mm-hmm.
are powerful gut emotions like
Anger.
anger, jealousy,
Mm-hmm.
very powerful emotions. Of course, whenever we feel powerful emotions, our heart beats faster, we have a rush of
Blood, adrenaline.
endorphins
Yes.
and other chemicals that our brain produces. We have to remember our brain is
The
the largest
largest
sex
sex
organ in the
organ.
body.
Yes. Yeah.
So I want to challenge any male or female person out there.
No challenge.
If they
No.
have any other sex organ that is bigger than their brain,
Because
because
the brain can
anatomically
command so much,
it would be
right?
incorrect.
Yeah. It's the stimulus of the brain first. Yeah.
So men, you have hope.
What about men?
There's
What
no
about
way.
men and
There's no
women
way
with
Viagra can make
what about men and
any
women
other
who
organ
have
bigger than your
bird
brain.
brains, so tiny brains. So sorry. Okay, go ahead, Sam. That is so true. Yeah, the power.
I just wanted to acknowledge um, how much courage it took for that letter
Yeah,
writer
Mm-hmm.
me too.
to even
Yes.
share
Yeah.
that situation. And Dot is right. You may want to work through that with someone, either a coach who can help you explore it, or if you're more troubled than that, perhaps move into a more professional
Yes.
relationship with a therapist
Yes.
um, who will help you to handle um, the deeper aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're not troubled at all, but if you just wanted to acknowledge that, hey,
Yeah.
this is my kink, quote unquote, and you're totally accepting of it, then
Yes.
you have already realized that you have within yourself your own power. You acknowledge where your experiences come from
Right. Right.
and you connect with that,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also in control.
You are in
You don't
control.
let it,
Yeah.
you don't let it lead you to go and behave in out of control ways.
Right.
You can safely use it.
Ah,
Like
yes.
like we all pretend, right? Babahay-bahayan tayo. We go to the playground or we go home and we
Playhouse.
play as if.
We role
So
play.
sometimes in
Yeah.
role play, yes.
Yes.
So even in sex, we
Mm-hmm.
can have very healthy role play games and we can
Yes.
learn how to play together.
Yes.
If you're able to share this with your relevant partners, then everyone can play safer together and help you when you start going out of, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
start going out of your comfort and safety zones.
Right. And I like what when you said safety, play safe. This is even beyond the physical diseases that we have, the illnesses that we could be threatened with when engaged in intimacy with another person, like AIDS and COVID, I don't know, and all that. The other kind of safety that I would like to mention is you're not a victim. I mean, you can reclaim your personal power and not be a victim of your own thoughts, emotions, and other people's perceptions of you. So that's my stand on personal power.
I,
Yeah, Mia.
I think I don't want to assume, but I think she kind of mentioned also on her letter that religion has something to do
Religion.
with her guilt, kind of, because growing up in a Catholic environment, you're not supposed to have sex before you're married.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
that's part of the guilt.
Yes. Yes.
That's why.
And she said she's a virgin.
Yes, she says
Yes.
she's a virgin.
Yes. So We're at 12:41. That's our time right now. If you're listening, you're in Pacific time, 12:41, and we just want to acknowledge our supporters here, people who watch us on Facebook and on the app. And if we have questions from the app, Kuya Yo, you can just throw them at us or not. And I don't have my Facebook right now, so I don't know. I can't see people interacting with us, but maybe later. Also, especially Ruel Rodriguez of Cavite
Oh, he's watching it now?
Association of Nevada. He always reposts
Oh, yes.
our
Thank
show,
you,
so thank you so
Ruel.
much, Ruel. The other thing is this is International Women's Month,
Oh, there you
March.
go. Yeah.
Yes. So this is a good avenue for us to talk about things that matter to us as females, as women, and for those who also identify with our gender. And this is for me, I love the inclusivity of the topic, Mia. And we can go on for until the end of March to talk
Yes.
about the many aspects of sex. And I want to talk also about just a little bit about Sin City, Las Vegas. And I had resistance about that. I said, how dare they call Las Vegas Sin City? But then I said, where there's sin, there's forgiveness. Angelic music.
And
Where there's sin,
salvation.
where there's sin, there's forgiveness. So it could be the sin of omission, sin of commission. But I want to take back uh, the clean image of Las Vegas, when it's for fun and it's for family. And what Sam said, visiting that goddess of spirituality, the temple out there in the desert, on the way to that airport base, that air base somewhere, going to Area 51. Haha! Area 51 out there. So it's Las Vegas isn't just sin. It
Yes.
is scenery. SCENE, Yeah, okay. So to continue our discussion, because we have a little bit over 15 minutes left, Sam, what about identity politics? What is that? Identity politics. I
First
saw
time
that
I've
in your
heard of
email.
that.
Yes.
Identity
You want to talk about that a
politics.
little bit? And
What
how it
is
plays in sex? Oops, audio. Ta-da!
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, I
Okay.
must have muted myself while you were talking, just
Uh-huh.
to just to honor your voice. Identity politics is a whole other topic that maybe we can talk about sometime in the future. But it's basically a way of of taking ownership and meaning for yourself. If I call myself part of the LGBT community, um, then I have just identified not only who I am as my identity,
Mm-hmm.
but there is an associated connotation about my politics that if I say I'm part of the LGBTQ community, then I would most probably be pushing for LGBTQ rights.
Okay. Yeah, the
Correct?
rights. Yes, correct.
Um, However, if you say, um, if if I ask our letter sender, for example, um, how do you identify, right? Would you say right away, what would you say right away? So here's a question for our listeners out there. If someone asks you, how do you identify?
Mm-hmm.
What are the top three words that come to mind? Do you talk about your race and your country of origin?
I'm a Filipina.
Yeah? Or do you talk about your sexual orientation,
I'm
your
female.
socioeconomic background,
I'm rich.
or provide or provide your role in uh, at your work,
Uh-huh. I'm a
at a
janitor.
banker?
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes.
So these are ways that we identify ourselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You say, "Oh, I'm a
Okay.
mother."
Mm-hmm. We
All
identify with the role.
of the ways that we attach meaning to ourselves and our identity, That is identity politics.
Okay.
When you say that the personal is political, the very first thing that you say after you introduce yourself, for example, hi, I'm Sam Perdente. I'm an MA student at the University of Washington studying cultural studies. That first identification has a political power. You have you have uh, prioritized a certain aspect of who you are. You
Beautiful.
have foregrounded it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
At the same time, that means you have backgrounded other things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
does do we know what your spirituality is?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Do we know about your spiritual journey?
Yes.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Do we know what your sexuality is? Do we know what your how your sexual preferences have changed over time?
Yes.
No, we don't. So when we encounter um, fellow alumni, lalo na yung mga older than millennials,
Uh-huh. That's a nice way.
we may
Very
That
not
that
kind
would be
necessarily
way.
be
us.
conscious
That's a kind way of
about
calling.
sexual
Yeah.
identity politics, but we do it all the time. We do it all the
Ah.
time.
And we're not even conscious of doing that all the time. Right.
Correct. And
Yes.
so, for example, if I may ask Mia, Mia, you go when you go to church, and then uh, one of one of the one of the your congregation members introduces you to a new person, there are descriptions of yourself or pagpapakilala pag nagpapakilala tayo, di ba?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We give descriptions of ourselves to help other people contextualize us and understand where we're coming from.
Mm.
That that is a power dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
and it asks you to use your knowledge of power
Mm-hmm.
to respond.
Yes.
So, how do you respond kapag nagpapakilala yung isang ah, kasama mo sa church?
Go ahead.
For
Yeah.
me, I have a straight answer. Realtor.
I'm a realtor.
Very good. See, you have just foregrounded your business role
Yes.
Yes.
in context kasi nasa church na rin kayo. So it's understood that you have more or less the same faith alliances.
Yeah.
And then the secondary and tertiary information and all the other information after that um, will come later. Pero di ba, remember we always have this saying, first impressions last.
Mm.
We
Yes.
make our first impression with
Mm-hmm.
our identity politics.
Mm-hmm.
So when we identify as a realtor, first and foremost, then what does that say to other people?
Mm-hmm.
Yun lang po yung ibig
Identity
sabihin ng
politics.
identity politics.
Okay. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us and our listeners. Identity politics. So, my father used to when he was still alive, and I had my firstborn, and my firstborn was only 1 year old. Tatay would he told me, he said, I'm going to train her to ask this question every time she would meet a stranger, or I would bring her to parties and this would be the question she will ask. I'm going to train her to ask this. The question is, hi, how's your sex life? that's how that's how he wanted my daughter
Oh
to
my
say hello
goodness.
to
Girl
friends.
pa.
How's your sex life? So, what kind of identity politics would that be, Sam? Well, he died, so goodbye for him, and that never materialized. I wouldn't. I don't know if I say thank God.
Diniscourage mo.
No, I just laughed at it. Yeah, it's my father who opened my mind to sexuality. I mean, he said we talked about sex on the table.
Nice.
There are no holds barred kind of conversation on the dining table with my father. So that's how open he was. But my mother, she would say, bastos mo, kabastos sa imo. Oh, Ilonggo. So I don't know. Was that your context,
N-
Mia?
Oh, no,
No,
no, we
no,
don't
no.
talk about. Yeah,
It's
no.
taboo.
Yeah.
Sex is taboo. Yep, yep. So we are at 12:51 now, and do you have any other sharing, Sam, in relation to our topics for today? This is just like an introduction to the rest of the month, right? And if you're willing, we can still have you as our guest again, or you can bring in someone you know who would be a good, who would bring some very rich insights into this conversation, but preferably Filipino or Filipina. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Um, I've not been able to connect uh, with the Center for Babaylan Studies
Mm-hmm.
in California. Um, I missed the latest installment of their decolonization school. But for those of you um, who are curious about what the Center for Babaylan Studies does or what decolonization means, Google has some resources for that.
Okay,
I can talk to
decolonization.
Dot and Mia after.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
but
yeah.
uh, I I do have a short story about um, identity and asking questions
Sure. Right now, you want to tell your
right
story?
now.
Yay.
Mhm.
Okay, go.
Just a short story. Um, I was invited to join several initiatives online, and one of them that was very attractive to me was an initiative about sense making, and they had a lot of diversity and equity um, programs as well. However, as soon as I got into the program, I noticed that a lot of the participants were white,
Mm-hmm.
and they're saying that they were all about diversity, inclusivity, and equity did not anymore sound true.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So I shut up. I told myself, well, give them a chance, etc. Um, so I introduced myself to several people. We had wonderful conversations, and then we had the General Assembly. In the General Assembly, um, people were getting introduced, and when it was my turn to introduce myself, I wasn't asked to just, oh, hi, can you introduce yourself? That
Mm-hmm.
was not the question
What was the
that was
question?
asked. Nor was I asked the question, how do you identify?
Okay, what was the
Or
question?
what do you what what do you bring to the group? No. I was asked this question. Who are you?
Who are you?
How did you answer?
Wow.
I answered with a silence
Mm.
Okay.
because the affect, the way it affected me,
Mm-hmm.
the way that it was asked was overwhelming. It totally told me that while many of the people in the group maybe would be looking at diversity, inclusivity, and equity,
Mm-hmm.
there were definitely strong members in the group who were not
Into that.
into diversity,
And
equity, or inclusivity.
okay.
And so it was a shocking and revelatory moment for me. I
Mm-hmm.
did not experience uh, that so blatantly or let it affect me so blatantly in ordinary days. But this is how identity and race and politics and your own power can be taken away from you
By the mere question.
by a mere question of sino
Who are
ka?
you? Who are you? Who,
So,
who?
sounds like a very simple question.
I know.
So
Yeah.
I just wanted to share out to the listeners. Um, when your sense of identity is strong and you know who you are, you can
Yes.
answer in many different ways.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's a good exercise, Dot. Who are you?
It is, though.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very foundational exercise for us to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
If it's the one thing that I can share with the listeners for today,
Yes.
especially when it comes to your sex and spirituality, who are you when it comes to your sex and spirituality? Exercise
Mm-hmm.
that so that you retain power, that you're able to answer with your full authentic self.
Beautiful.
I can answer
Beautiful.
that.
Go ahead, Mia.
It's
Uh,
for you to find out.
oh, wow. It's for you to find out.
I love it. I
And
love
then you
it.
toss your hair, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
For you
Okay.
to find out.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's for you to find out. So it's for you to find out what's in for you next week on the dot, right? So who knows? If Sam says yes, we can bring him back. If not, we can bring someone in. And we have like how many Wednesdays in March? Like
I think-
5 or 4
Is
Wednesdays.
it 5?
I'm not
Let me
so
check the
sure.
calendar.
Sam, thank you so
5.
much for the very stimulating
Yes, thank you,
words
Sam.
that we heard from you today. To answer your question, who are you? My answer would be, I am spirit
No,
on a human journey.
That
Oh,
spirit.
I am spirit on a human journey. So that, yeah, I don't know. It's for you to find out.
How about you,
Kuya
Kuya
Yo?
Yo?
Who are you?
Who are
Who
you?
are you? Who are you?
Oh, I have a closing quote from Oscar Wilde.
Sam, thank you, huh?
Thank you,
All right.
Sam.
Yeah.
From
Wilde.
Oscar Wilde. Everything in the world is about sex,
Uh-huh.
except sex.
Oh, wow.
Sex is about power, 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 power.
Sex is about power. And does it mean if I don't have sex, I don't have power?
Yes, so you should have
Oh.
sex.
So if I have sex, I have more
To
power.
have power, power,
Yeah.
power.
But these are
power.
just, yeah, we're playing with ideas here. Don't take us so seriously, ladies and gentlemen. You can research and contribute if you want. Contribute some ideas in here and make the conversation very rich. Yes.
Thank you to the brave anonymous letter
Thank you so
sender.
much. Yes, yes. And so next week, find us on, or even tomorrow or in a little bit, connect with us through, where's that, Mia? Google Play.
Oh, your phone number and your email.
Oh, my phone number. This is funny because I give out my phone number. Nobody connects with me. But people who keep their phones secure, they get hacked. They get
like
hacked.
me. Yes,
Okay,
my
so
Facebook and
yeah.
my,
my number is 702-498-6185. Connect with me
Dina White.
to join UP Alumni Association of Nevada and to send us your questions and comments or letters. What's that, Mia?
I'm
What are you
pointing
looking at?
to your email and
To my
phone number.
email. Okay, my email is dotlenore@gmail.com. Thank you so much for another session of On the Dot this month, the first Wednesday of the month of International Women's Month.
And we'll have 5 episodes on sex and sin city.
Thank you.
See you next
Alrighty, see you next week. Bye, everybody.
On the dot.
Las Vegas.